Good morning, everybody, and welcome again to another edition of Park Roots. My name is Curtis. I'm the Director of Education and Programming out here at the Parklands of Floyd's Fork. We are here on a beautiful late winter day. We've only got a few days left here of winter. Spring is just around the corner, happening on Sunday, and if you're anything like me, you are very excited for that fact. Spring in the Parklands is a fantastic time, one of the most amazing times of the year here. We've got our spring ephemeral wildflowers about to bloom, maybe even this weekend with our nice weather. We've got our chorus frogs and spring peepers singing right now. We've got birds migrating through to their breeding grounds. And it's a great time of the year to be out in the park. Like I said, if you're a birder, you're going to see a lot of our warblers starting to pass through on their migration season. But today, we're not talking about winged migration. We're going to talk about terrestrial or land-based migration, and the only one that happens here in the Parklands by the salamander. So if you think to yourself, I didn't know salamanders migrated, well, don't worry, you're not alone. All right, salamanders, we've got here in Kentucky, we've got 35 species of salamander, 10 of which are land-based, the other 25 are aquatic. And so they make this migration every year from underground to their breeding habitats, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's back up a little bit. Salamanders are amphibians, and so that makes them pretty unique. They have a very permeable skin, and so that it promotes the exchange of gases and liquids. That's how they breathe. So their skin is very, very sensitive. It's very sensitive to environmental change, to pollution, things like that. Salamanders are predators, so they're eating insects and worms, small crustaceans, and so you don't really see salamanders very often out in our forest, but there are tons of them out here. Some studies have even shown that if you take all of the salamander biomass in our forests, it can be the same amount of mass as if you combined all of our resident birds with our small mammals. So we see birds every day, you see small mammals every day, but we certainly don't see salamanders every day, but there are tons and tons of them out there, hunting and cycling through the energy. So salamanders are a really, really important part of our ecosystem. And so today we're going to talk about the spotted salamander in particular, one of our terrestrial or land-based salamanders, because they're one of the ones that make that great migration here in the late winter, early spring. And so spotted salamanders are part of a family called mole salamanders. They spend a lot of their time underground or underneath piles of leaf litter. But during this time of the year, they will start their migration, which they will wake up from their brumation. They will start walking through the forest looking for vernal pools or wetland areas. So when I say vernal pools, what I mean by that is if you're in our forests like Turkey Run or Coppiced Woods, you may sometimes see small pools of water that are here during the winter and the spring months, but maybe not here during the summer months. They will dry up. And so those pools are out there, and that's what the salamanders are seeking out for their breeding grounds. They're going to meet other salamanders there, those wetlands or those vernal pools, and they're going to lay their eggs there. Because in those vernal pools, there are no fish, there are very, very few other animals in those pools, and so they're very safe from predation. So fish are going to eat those eggs a lot, but in those vernal pools where there are no fish, a very safe place to lay your eggs. And so once the spotted salamander lays their eggs, this is what makes them a unique amphibian, is they go through life cycle change. So they will lay their egg mass in the water, about 200 or so eggs, and they will go through a few different stages of life before they become their adult salamander. So first they'll sprout their gills. They'll be in their larval form. They're underwater, breathing through the water. They will eventually sprout a couple arms or forelimbs, and then they will sprout their back or hind limbs as well. Still having gills throughout all of these stages, so they're in the water. But once they move past this stage, they then leave the water, crawl up onto land, and are adult salamander. It takes about 2 or 3 months for that to happen. But this time of the year is the specific time of the year that this happens. So it's always during the first warm, rainy night of either late winter, early spring, and sometimes it happens over the course of a few different nights. But the warm temperatures trigger that salamander to wake up from underneath the ground, that spring is slowly coming, I'm going to wake up. And the rain is really important for them as well. So like we said, their skin is very sensitive. It needs to stay wet. If it gets dry, it can be very harmful for the salamander. So if you're walking all across land and it's nice and rainy, you're going to stay wet, you're going to stay safe. So as these salamanders are migrating, be sure that when you're out in the park to make sure that you're watching where you walk as you go through on these rainy nights. We encourage you all to come out and watch some of this to happen, but we don't encourage you to ever pick up any salamanders. So globally right now, amphibians are very, very endangered. There are over 1,800 species that are either threatened or endangered throughout the world. Here in Kentucky, there are 14 species of salamanders out of those 35 that are being monitored or watched for conservation status. And so we really want to make sure that we're being respectful when we're going out to look for salamanders. It's okay if you find one to watch it, maybe take a picture, but please don't handle the salamanders. Like we said, the skin is very, very sensitive. So if you have things like bug spray, sunscreen, or maybe even hand sanitizer on your hands, it can get absorbed through that salamander's skin and can really hurt them. If you want to help the salamanders, what you can do is provide a lot of great habitat in your yard. So you can find things like downed logs, rocks, patio stones, anything that's cool and dark they can hide underneath. It's going to provide great habitat for those salamanders. So if you really want to help them do that, and also try to keep our waterways clean. So if you've got pets, pick up your pet waste. And just generally don't litter, and you're going to help take care of salamanders. But if you really want to come out to the park to see this great migration, or maybe see if you can find some salamanders, Turkey Run Forest is a great place for it. Coppice Woods here in Beckley Creek Park is another great place. Again, these are mole salamanders, so you're going to see them oftentimes under leaf litter. If you do catch the right time where they're migrating, you're going to be pretty lucky, but you will see them moving through the forest floor. But again, please don't handle those salamanders. Just enjoy watching this amazing natural spectacle. Thanks again for watching Park Routes today. The Parklands is a donor-supported public park, so we don't receive any tax dollars for our operations. So by watching today and by becoming a member, you are supporting everything that we do and helping to preserve all this fantastic salamander habitat. So thank you all for watching today. Enjoy the last few days of winter here, and spring is on its way. I know I'm excited. I hope to see you all out here as spring arrives next week.